Hey guys, what's up? Mike here, and today I've got a Boku no Hero Academia review, chapter 128 on this lovely Thursday. And this chapter was more of a setup chapter as our last couple weeks have been. It was a really good one, to be fair. It really started to ramp up for the upcoming stuff with Overhaul and his quirk and his group. So that part of it I really liked. I also really liked the development of this chapter with Sir and Izuku, and kind of like a subtle realization hinting at what Izuku needs to do to become the best, and that it's not just a free ride for him anymore, you know? Yes, he has this one-for-all quirk, but it's not guaranteed to be his forever. And there are people that are putting all of their eggs in Izuku's basket. So he's not just the only one that he's fighting for. He's not fighting for himself only. He's fighting for all of the heroes and all of the world, really, because they all need someone to be number one, and the one-for-all quirk is the number one quirk, apparently. So let's get into the review today. So as usual, this week's chapter picks up right where we left off last week with Izuku doing the bouncing off the walls thing while Sir is trying to test him. And I'm just going to call him Sir because I know Night Eye is a cool name, but Sir is just easier to say, and saying Night Eye over and over again gets a little repetitive. So yeah, so they're getting ready for their test, and Izuku's bouncing off the walls again like he thinks that speed can outrun the foresight quirk that Sir has. And it's honestly a good idea. I mean, it makes sense that Sir can be able to see the future, but he can only see so fast, and he can only react so fast. Seeing the future doesn't make him able to react quicker. So that's a good idea from Izuku's part, but that's obviously not how it goes. It kind of makes sense that if Sir can see the future, he can kind of see the events pan out in front of him. And even if it is just on one individual target, he can see how much they can do or what they will do and when they will do it, no matter how long away it is. And that part of the quirk is really, really good. He basically has a set plan for whoever his target is, because they're kind of defined by destiny, or at least how it seems by this quirk. At this point, Sir just continues to trash Izuku, saying he's basically like a Gran Torino ripoff. And I thought that was pretty funny, because it is true. I said at the end of last week's chapter, he is kind of just like imitating Gran Torino. He's kind of moving from imitating All Might to moving to imitating Gran Torino. And Izuku just really needs to find his own stride and his own style. And I mean, the shoot style is a really good start for him. The whole kicking thing is a really good idea. I think he'll probably start to lean towards that in the future. But, you know, Sir in this chapter just reiterated the theme of imitation in Boku no Hero Academia. It's really been there through the entire series, and it will probably continue to be there until Izuku is able to overpower it and become his own person. Now, when Sir activated his quirk in this chapter, it was really interesting how it was done, because it was a little bit different from last chapter. And when he, you know, was going to hit Izuku as he's flying in the air, the screen completely went black. And it looked as if Izuku was the only thing in there, and if Sir wasn't even in there, and then he just kind of gave him a little bop on the head there beside him. And also, when Izuku was flying by, you kind of see a close-up of Sir's eye, and it's almost like some Terminator, like a robot shit. So I wonder if his eyes have something to do with it. I mean, we've seen them, but like it kind of changed in that certain panel. I don't know whether that was just the artist Hirokoshi doing what he does and kind of like adding a certain hint, or just like a simple design error or something like that. I don't know. But tell me what you thought in the comments below with this part, because I'm not sure about it. So at this point, when Izuku, you know, misses after he's trying to speed plan, he's kind of a little bit worried, and you can see the look on his face. And Sir kind of reminds him, like, you know, you look a little worried right now. And the number one hero, it shouldn't be worried. The number one hero should have vision. And that's kind of something you're lacking right now. And it makes sense, you know, Izuku is kind of just lacking a little bit of vision right now. Even though he's got this pure goal, he doesn't have a pure way of like getting there, or, you know, how he will achieve it. And that makes sense from Sir's perspective. So at this point of the chapter, when Sir really starts laying into Izuku with the chirps and saying, you know, like, I really don't acknowledge you, you're kind of shit, blah blah blah, he was just chirping the fuck out of him. And at this point I was thinking a little bit to, you know, at first I was like, okay Sir, a little bit of this is okay, I understand your skepticism, but now you're going really hard on this kid. And it makes me think, like, you don't actually mean this stuff. And it makes more sense later on in the chapter, because we find out that Sir was never actually going to fail Izuku. And this whole kind of setup was more just to fuel his fire and see what he has. And I think that Izuku definitely gained some respect with Sir, but I think that at the same time, Sir was trying to help Izuku. And he realizes that Izuku does have this goal, like I said earlier, but he needs something to push him to get there. And he needs this fire in his belly. And I think that Sir is really trying to ignite the passion in Izuku so that he will be able to rise quicker and make his way through One for All, and, you know, improve it quicker in order for him to be the number one hero that needs to be out there. At this point, it seems like Sir's kind of pushing really does work off, because Izuku is pissed to the point where he feels like he really needs to prove himself. Whenever Izuku gets to this point, he always kind of pulls something out of his ass, some trick that, you know, his clever mind thought up in the moment. And it was really a good one this chapter as well, even though it didn't work out the way he wanted it to. It was a really good idea of grabbing the shelf and throwing the books, and able to figure out that Sir's quirk probably only follows a specific target, and so it can't see the entire future of the surroundings around him. So if Izuku throws all these books at him, the books random pattern throughout the air. Sir is not going to be able to predict that. So any of these books flying in the way might get in the way of his vision, might get in the way of him stopping Izuku. So it was a really good idea. And even though it didn't work, it still goes to prove Izuku's cleverness in situations like that, and his potential for such good heroing in the future. So unfortunately, we see Izuku miss the piece at this point, and he kind of lands in the wall. But he goes to explain that he was jumping around the walls and he was not ever touching the All Might posters. And I think that really hit a spot with Sir, because he kind of just took a second and was like, damn, you know, this kid's a little bit more than I thought, even though he's still shit. But I think that that gained a certain amount of respect for Sir, being able to, you know, keep your strategy in mind, as well as aware of your surroundings completely and where you're going, you know, being able to go this fast and trying to outdo Sir, but at the same time focusing on where you're landing and making sure that you're not disrupting anything in the room, or the All Might posters especially. I thought that was really cool. I actually kind of laughed at this point of the chapter when Miyorio and Bubble Girl then enter the room, and Sir just declares that Izuku's hired, and he's planning on hiring him from the beginning, and he respects this whole strategy thing that I was just saying. And I kind of laughed because he pulled the exact same thing that Aizawa did at the first exam of the year. You know, when he said, everyone's going to take this exam, and if you're in last place, you're going to fail. And he basically trash-talked the fuck out of Izuku before he could even throw the baseball. And just like Sir was trash-talking the fuck out of Izuku before he did this test. But Aizawa and Sir still gave them a chance, or still gave Izuku a chance to prove himself, and then after was like, okay, this kid's got something. And I like how it was done the exact same way, because it was really just outlining a parallel, but it just kind of shows like Izuku's really been through the shitter when it comes to these guys. They like to just fuck with him because he's trying his best, you know, but these guys just want to see more than his best. And yes, Sir sees the potential in Izuku, but he also kind of is still skeptical. And I really understand that point of view, but at the same time, he just needs to get to know Izuku a little bit more, and I think that he does need to give him a little bit more of a chance, and I think that Sir also does realize this in this chapter. But the main reason why he accepted Izuku is probably to take the one-for-all quirk from him, or not take it, but give it to someone who is more worthy, because he thinks that Izuku is not, he still doesn't acknowledge Izuku. So finally, this little mini training arc with Sir and Izuku is kind of over. I know it was only a couple chapters, but we get into the city on their first day of training, and they immediately kind of jump into it, which I was surprised at, but you know, I like the pacing. So they get into the city, and Sir is kind of explaining how his operation works, how he likes to find proof for these villain organizations and then take them down without them even noticing that they're being spied on or being interviewed or being investigated, sorry. So they go out to the city, and Sir says that his investigation is on the Eightfold Cleansers, I think it was. And I found it interesting how there was kind of a name change in this chapter. I don't know if that was a translation error or what, but I remember the first time that Overhaul and his gang showed up, they were called the Eight Percepts of Death, and now they're called the Eightfold Cleansers. Okay, I definitely like the Eight Percepts of Death better, but I think the Eightfold Cleansers would be fine as well. I just kind of want like a clear name on what they actually are, and maybe they're doing a different name for the public so that they don't get called the actual Eight Percepts of Death by everybody, or are not known by that, but I'm not sure for it. So then they show Izuku a picture of Overhaul for the first time, and he's actually a little bit scared, but nothing too crazy, and they say that his name is actually Shisaki, and the translation for Shisaki is part of it has to do with medical treatment or cure. I saw that in the translations, and I thought that was interesting, and it's kind of part of what has to do with Overhaul's quirk. Now, I theorized when Overhaul's quirk first showed up that it could be some sort of, you know, like Shigaraki's, where it completely decays everything. But at the same time, I didn't think it was that. I thought it was more leaning towards the rapid cell growth because of the explosion style that Magmi died in. And I think that this also kind of points towards that as well, that he's able to not, like, he could be able to cure your diseases if he was able to control his quirk. And I feel like, you know, being able to kill or rapidly grow a lot of cells can have a lot of medical uses, and I think that's why his name has some sort of medical meaning in the translation. Then we run into the big, you know, climax of this chapter where the little girl is running across the street. She kind of says something to herself, like, I gotta escape this, please, somebody, whatever. She's pleading in her own mind, and then she runs into Izuku. And then all of a sudden Overhaul pops up and says, I forget the girl's name, but he says her name and he says, come back with me. You don't want to bother these heroes. And wow, Izuku's got some real bad luck. He seems to constantly run into the biggest threats ever. Shigaraki at the mall, Stain while he was out with Torino, and now this, he just has bad luck. It's actually hilarious that his first day out, he runs into one of the biggest villains out there. About that little girl though, she's an interesting part of this chapter, and it really is hard to say what her main goal is or what her purpose is there. But I'm gonna go ahead and theorize that she's under the control of Overhaul, and I don't mean mental control. I mean that she's just being used by them for some sort of pawn or something. It would make sense if she was actually used by Overhaul to kind of get info on the Hero Association. Even though that seems like a stretch right now, it makes sense because the way that she was, pleading that she needs to get out of this, she can't take it anymore. It's like she's been doing this for a while, and it's like she's been, having to listen to their orders or whatever, and she doesn't want to actually hurt good people anymore. And that would make complete sense. But it would be actually very interesting because Sir's organization thinks that they're completely under the radar. But at the same time, we see that Overhaul knows Izuku is a hero, and I guess that's kind of given by the costume or anything. But I wonder if he actually knows who Izuku is, and I wonder if that was a hint that he's kind of got tabs on everybody there already. So the way this arc is actually looking to go is having Overhaul take over the #1 villain spot for now, and eventually have the downfall of the Percepts or the Overhaul gang. And I don't know if that's exactly how it goes, but that's kind of how it's leaning, because Shigaraki is still on his uprise the same way that Izuku is still on his uprise. And I'm going to stick with the whole fact that I think that eventually at some point in this series, Shigaraki will be the #1 villain and Izuku will be the #1 hero, and that'll be the big climactic fight that is the climax of this story, or at least one of them. You never know. Overall, this chapter was very, very enjoyable. I liked the little reveals in this chapter, little tidbits on Sir's quirk, Izuku's development as well. That was really nice, along with just getting to learn a little bit of stuff and progressing the story, and finally getting Overhaul into the action, or at least we hope so. Next chapter could just be like a pass by where they kind of just let him slide by and pretend like they don't know him. But either way, this chapter was really good. There was a few little art, unfinished art panels, which I guess that's okay. If he's working on season 2, if he's working on something else, that's fine with me. But either way, this chapter was awesome. Thanks for watching, guys. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed. Comment down below what you thought, and I'll talk to you on the next one. Peace.